So we have our game here, and I can move up and down, but if you notice, you can move up off the screen, right, up into negative y values, and then you can move off the bottom of the screen into values that are past the height of the screen. So we want to limit that, right, where it has a boundary on the upper end and then a boundary on the bottom end. The upper end, of course, is 0, and then the bottom end here is the height of the screen, which is I think is like 570. So in order to do that, we need to put in a condition. And where are we going to do that? We're going to say play, hit read in the keystrokes, adjust the speed, and then blit, right? So what part of that do you think that the condition should go in? Well, of course, it should be right here where we're adjusting the y value, okay? So I guess we can just come right in here, and there's a couple of ways to do it. There's one way in the tutorial, um, but I guess if we could just go right in here, and we can only adjust the speed of the y. We can only adjust the y if move up is true, and then we could say and y. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, let's do it the traditional way. So we adjust the speed, and then we check if the y position is in negative values, right? So we say if y is less than 0. And if y is less than 0, then what do you want to do? You want to say y equal to 0. And remember, the x and y represents the top left corner of the rectangle. So in this case, the top left corner of the paddle. So if the top of the paddle, yeah, that's right, the top of the paddle is less than 0, so it goes into negative numbers like -4, then we're going to readjust the y position of the paddle back to 0. So it can never go into negative numbers, right? And then we also want to get the other end. So we'll say else if y is greater than win height. But that's not quite right. Then we'll say y is equal to win height, and I'll show you why. So we'll set it up like that, and that seems like it's right, but it's not. Watch, I'll run it, and we'll scroll up. The top one works fine, right? But then the bottom one doesn't, right? And what you can't see is that the top of the paddle is right here. It's just out of view, and you can see the paddle's right here. It's stuck, but it's stuck right here. And so why? Because the Y position is the top left, is the top of the paddle. So what we're saying here is we're saying if the top of the paddle is greater than the height of the screen, then we set the top of the paddle to the height of the screen, which puts the paddle right here, right off of the screen. So we don't want to say the top of the paddle. We want to compare the bottom of the paddle with the height of the screen. So how do we do that? Well, we take the height, the top of the paddle, and we add the paddle height to it. And then, of course, when we're down here, that changes up this equation. So then if this is true, then we want to set the y position to the win height minus the paddle height. And so although that might be a little complicated, the way that that works, think about it, work it out on scratch paper, make sure that it makes sense, right? And so let me go ahead and move forward, run our program. I'll go up, of course that works, and we'll go down, and that works. Why? Because now we're comparing the bottom of the paddle with the bottom of the screen. We're not comparing the top of the paddle with the bottom of the screen.